I would start off with saying, if you ever need to talk about it, I'm here. They may brush you off and say, I don't know what you're talking about, or you just gave them that glimmer of hope that there's someone that they can talk to.
Hay que vivir sin excusas.
Algunas veces tienes dudas que tus sueños no se puedan cumplir. No encuentras la manera ni el camino que puedas seguir. No te demores.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with Ajusta Tu Corona. And Sharissa was not supposed to be on the screen yet. I was supposed to give her this big introduction, and here she is. Let's see. Oh, it says that there's a thing saying that there's issues streaming to Facebook, and they may not be able to watch us. So we'll wait to see if it corrects itself. It is on Facebook on the Ajusta Tu Corona page, and it is on YouTube. Oh, it just corrected itself. It is also now on the Lillian Maldonado page. A lot of you don't know about my Ajusta Tu Corona page, which is why I am streaming on both of my social media platforms. Ajusta Tu Corona means adjust your crown, and it is just us assisting and helping to heal all people of diversity. It's always been about women, but we have spread it out a little bit to also men, because I've had so many men complain on the platform about them being abused as well and us not giving them as much attention. But tonight, I'm so excited, is all about Sharissa Hardaway. Oh, look, she hired from McKinney. She is now a married woman.
Yes.
And Sharissa wrote an amazing book called Love You More. I have heard her speak on it. I personally have the book. It is absolutely wonderful. At the end of this event, Sharissa will freely give you where you can get your copy if you so desire one. It is a very deep story of what she went through as a victim of domestic violence, and we appreciate you being on here. I'm forever grateful that you are here once again, and due to high demand, because people love listening. It's not, I don't want to say the word love, but are intrigued about your story, and just give them a little bit about the last time. Start from that point, the last little bit of the story when he hit you the last time.
So the very last time with my child, or just me in general? Okay. So we have been together for a while. We are now living together. And this was kind of like my breaking point. A lot of people will say, well, why wasn't everything before that your breaking point? But it goes to show you sometimes as women or as humans that we tend to hold other people in higher regard than yourself. So I was okay with him doing whatever he did to me, but when it extended to someone else is when it affected me. So we had got into an argument. It was a big issue. There were infidelities in the relationship, and he ended up leaving. And I was scared. So there was a lady, God rest her soul, Shirley Farmer, who has recently passed away. She was in the same building I lived in on the top floor, and her sons and her daughter used to sit in the house with me to make sure I was okay. So we all slept together. His mother was there. Shirley was there. Her two sons were there, and her daughter were there. And we got up in the morning because they used to always help me. You know, I was a new mom, and they were helping me do a lot of things. And the son and one of the sons and the daughter went to the store to get milk. The mother went upstairs, and I was in the apartment alone with one of the brothers. And we left the door open because that's what we would do. You know, they would come back in, come in and out. She was upstairs. We would go. I would be in and out of her apartment. And when the door opened, it happened to be my child's father. And mind you, I haven't seen him in maybe a week and a half. And the first thing he sees is this man in the apartment. And he just starts flipping and yelling and screaming. And they're going back and forth. And they finally end up going outside. in the hallway. I live on the first floor, and they're going back and forth, and they're neck and neck, and they're just cursing back and forth at each other. And I'm holding our daughter, who at the time was about 6 months, and I'm holding her in the doorway, and I'm telling the brother to come back in. Like, this is not his fight, you know? So I'm like, just come back in and just come back in. And I guess something triggered in my child's father where it's like, well, she's calling this man to come back into the apartment. So all of a sudden, as they're going back and forth and pacing, he runs towards the door. I don't have time to close the door because I'm holding our baby. So he comes in, pushes me, closes the door, and just proceeds to wail. He's hitting me and punching me. I can't do much but conceal our child. So I end up hitting the floor. And I hit the floor. And as I'm down, he proceeds to kick me in the mouth with his foot. And like I told you, I was concealing the baby. So he kicks me. I'm bleeding everywhere. As this is going on, the brothers are both trying to bang the door in. They finally get it in. They tussle with him. He runs out the door. And there's blood everywhere. And everybody's like, oh, my God. The neighbors have called the police and the ambulance. And I'm holding her. And everybody's checking me like, oh, my God. Because my lip is bleeding. But I realized, like, when the EMS workers came in, I realized this is not all my blood. And I looked down and my 6-month-old baby is bleeding from the top of her head. It's just like dripping. And now I'm panicking. And they jump her into the ambulance. But that was the straw for me. My child ended up getting 6 stitches in her head. And that was pretty much it. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't let what I was dealing with affect my child. So that's where it pretty much ended.
And this is P.S.
This is Love You More. It is on Sharissa. If you see my name, it's just SharissaHardaway.com. You can order from there. But yeah, it took me a while to write this book. I wrote this book for other women because I feel like I'm an avid reader. I've always been an avid reader, and I think that if I would have had something at the time to help me realize what I was going through or help me get out of what I was going through, I might have been able to get out of it sooner. But I didn't have that. And so it took me a very long time to write my story because I wanted to write it and let it go. So I didn't hold on to it and make it a part of me. It's part of my story, but it's not a part of who I am. So I wrote the book to kind of free myself from that whole story and be able to move on.
Now, your book is, in the way that you wrote it, it's like 7 red flags of domestic violence.
Correct. 7 red flags.
So which flag are you going to discuss tonight? Or are you going to read an excerpt from?
So I'm going to read from the isolation chapter today.
Okay.
There's several parts, but isolation is a big one. I always tell anybody that I speak to who has been in a domestic violence relationship, because sometimes you might be in one and not realize you're back in another one. So I try to explain to them that anybody who wants to isolate, people get in relationships to build family, build relationships, build futures. Anybody who is trying to chop down those connections you have to other people is a red flag. And so isolation to me was really big. Once somebody can have you isolated, anything after that is possible in my head. So I'm going to from that chapter today.
Okay. I'm all ears.
Okay. So in this chapter, I basically explain where I was connected to all my friends. And when they realized I was in this relationship, they were against it from the beginning. And so I ended up being isolated. So I'm just going to start from the middle, but I wanted to give a little backdrop. So he had gotten so comfortable with us being a couple and being isolated together, he started to introduce me to his family members. I met his sister, his cousin, his aunt, and his 2 older brothers. And they were great. I loved it because they were so close, just like my family was, and they seemed to like me. We had family outings, movie nights, dates, and some amazing times. His sister Shannon truly became my sister, and I became the same to her. She had become my road dog, so to speak. She had an amazing personality and was so loving. We hit it off instantly, too. He didn't like that at all. He would always tell me she was using me because that's how she was. But I knew better. She had a genuine love for me and for him too. They just had the normal sibling issues, but our closeness became a real problem for him. Remember, he didn't want to share me with anyone. Shannon and I used to love picking up food, coming back to her apartment, and just having family time over dinner. It was great feeling as though I was a part of a family again. Since I had missed mine for so long, it felt good having his. One time we went to our favorite Jamaican spot over by East 233rd Street. If you know, you know, in the Bronx. We ordered a couple of patties, some cheese and buns, and when the bill came, she and I fought over it, as we always did. I won that time and I paid. When we got home, her son, my nephew, thanked her. Shannon, being who she was and who she still is, told him to thank me because I was the one who paid for it all. My nephew did, in front of everyone, which was so sweet to me, but not to my boo. I could see in his eyes he was angry, but he stayed surprisingly cool all night. Later that night on the terrace, he was kissing my neck and my shoulders and giving me all the love that he usually gave me. And out of nowhere, he leaned over and bit my arm hard. I screamed. The pain was excruciating. He covered my mouth and tried to calm me down. I turned away in so much pain. He replied to me, "We don't need to feed anyone. They buy their own shit next time," he said. Then he changed up. "I'm so sorry, babe," is all he could say, his eyes so sweet to me. "I just get mad when they use you." He said he was getting so turned on kissing me and all of a sudden got mad when he thought of it. I was pissed, but I guess I could understand. Did he have to bite me though? The bite mark turned into some heated intimacy later that night as he kissed it over and over again, apologizing profusely. That bite mark, that bite that he left on my arm, is still on my arm to this day. So I still have the scar. Mm-hmm. I still have the scar.
He scarred you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unbelievable to me. How long did it take you to realize that you were in a domestic violence relationship? And the reason that I ask is because so many people are and are not aware of it.
So I honestly want to tell you, it probably was towards the end of it. Only because I honestly didn't think I was in a domestic violence relationship. I just thought it was a normal boyfriend-girlfriend relationship where I angered him so much that he couldn't control his emotions. And in my head, I thought because he couldn't control his emotions that he loved me. Oh, he gets all wild and crazy because he's so in love with me. So it wasn't towards the end, and it only became like, it only clicked like, oh my God, this is not what it's supposed to be, because other people started to give me like strange faces when they heard or saw what I went through, because it wasn't like everything happened in private. There's a lot of times that stuff happened in the street. So when I started noticing, and when it started happening in the street, it was towards the end, because now it was full blown. He didn't care who saw it. In the beginning, it was more of a hush, hush, and I'm apologizing, and we don't have to bring it up. Towards the end, it was more like, it is what it is. And so when people started giving me that face and giving me those looks and giving me that, oh my God, I feel so sorry for you kind of conversations, I started to realize this is not a healthy relationship. But I think that if it wouldn't have been so public, I might not have known that.
And in time measurement, when was the end? A year, 6 months?
Into the relationship, or you mean?
No, not, I know that he was abusing you, but when did you become aware? Was it 6 months? Was it a year? Was it 2 years?
Maybe about 2.5 years. I want to say 2.5 years into, and towards the end. So in the beginning, I always say this and I know it comes off wrong, but in the beginning, again, I guess I didn't know I was in a domestic violence relationship, because it wasn't like he was hauling off smacking me. It might be times where he got mad and he punched my shoulder, or might have playfully punched my thighs, and I thought we were just playing. So I guess we were always in a domestic violence relationship, but when it became really crazy at the end, it took about 2.5 years until I left.
You were one of the lucky ones, because
some people don't get out, and it's
no, that was a long time.
Yeah.
A long time. So when they start to isolate you. That may not be the first red flag. That's just one of the red flags.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I can tell you. Isolation in my book is really it's the second chapter, because obsession becomes the first. So I want to explain that love and obsession are totally two different things. Obsession and love do not occur at the same time. I even make sure that in every chapter, I give you an explanation of what it is. And obsession is an idea or thought that continuously preoccupies or intrudes in a person's mind. None of those words are in the definition of love. So where some people might start off and say, oh, he loves me so much. He changes what I wear because he prefers to see me in this. Or he doesn't like my hair like this, but he loves my hair like this because he's so in love with me. He would always wants to see me. It's not that. He's obsessed with how he wants you to be, and he's grooming you to be where you're at. So once you get to the point where you're so convinced that this is love, now he can truly isolate, or he or she can truly learn to isolate, because now they want you to depend on all the love they give you. And you're like, well, that's all I need, because look how much he's been showering me with it for how long. And so that's when isolation truly, in my opinion, kicks in.
Absolutely. And most definitely they keep you away from your family. They don't want you reaching out to your family and
no one loves you
talking. Yeah, no one loves you more than he. They don't want you talking to your family and talking bad about them.
Oh no.
So they keep you away from everybody because they want no one to know what's going on so that they can have complete control. It is so true. Oh, I remember those days. I can smile about it now.
Yeah.
Because what I went through is what brought me to this platform. And because of what I went through and this platform, I have met amazing people such as Sharissa. And Sharissa has become a staple in our foundation, in our community. We have an event on March 4th in Delaware. It is being collaborated between myself and Thrive Health Life Coach. And it is a pre-Kentucky Derby. All of my parties are themed, or all of my galas or my pop-ups are themed so that you always wear something on your head, whether it be a crown, a fascinator, a big hat, just so that you always remember to adjust your crown. So that is the meaning behind that. And so we're doing a pre-Kentucky Derby because Kentucky Derby is actually in May. There will be music. There will be a full lunch, Latin culture. It is just going to be another amazing event. And Sharissa happens to be one of our speakers. Yeah. So I'm grateful to her. She's going to take that trip.
I appreciate you for even thinking of me to speak at another one of your events. Before we go any further, I would really like to let everybody know that if it was not for Ajusted to Corona, I probably would have never finished my book. These women, Lilium and all the women that support her and back her and are part of her journey and partners and everything, they support you more than you know. So if there is any woman that is watching or looking for a foundation, someone who can bring her in and hold her close and let her know that we are a sisterhood, Ajusted to Corona is the place to go. So I just want to...
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we haven't had any workshops yet. We're still formatting how we would like to bring our workshops to you. But the gala itself and this pop-up, I can honestly say, is a healing event. I'm going to let Sharissa talk about that. You can't describe it.
No, you can't. I always laugh. I talk to them all the time, and I always laugh because the high that event gave me leaving, like, I could not be mad. I couldn't even fathom being upset or feeling down for days after the event, because that's how much of a healing this event gives you. So much of a camaraderie from the moment you walk in the door. Your sisters that you don't know you needed, but you did, come out, hug you, we talk, we cry, we laugh, we dance, we celebrate one another in ways that I've never had or never been celebrated before. And I never knew how much I needed that gala in my life, but trust and believe I'm never missing it again. I went this year, and I will be at everyone moving forward, because something like that you can't let go of. You know how you get something and you're like, oh my God, that was so great. And you're like, I'm going to do this again. That is how this gala makes you feel. So whoever missed it this year, please, when I tell you, don't miss it next year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Sure.
There is when do you plan on writing another book?
So I am actually in the midst of writing one as we speak. So hopefully it'll be done maybe by the end of this year. It is a continuation on my healing process as I went on, because what I like to explain to people, when I know this is maybe sound kind of weird, but I went from from someone else being the aggressor to me being the aggressor. And let me explain that a little bit. I was young, as was my child's father, and we went through what we went through. So after that was over, it were triggers for me. I should have went to get help in healing after it, but I didn't. I thought once I let it go, and we do. You think once you let it go and once you move on, you're healed. Oh, that's never going to happen to me again. I'm never going to let that happen to me again. And I wasn't. And so I got into relationships, and because I had triggers, whenever my husband now will tell you, when we were in a relationship, when we started in a relationship, I was always the one to put my hands up first, because I was just so, if we got into an argument, a disagreement, once he raised his voice at levels that I was afraid of, or once, even if he said something that triggered me, I assumed we were going to fight. And so I put my hands up. And so I had to learn that's not the response I have to give. And I had to relearn me and readjust my emotions and start from scratch, basically. And that's what this next book is about. It's telling you how I became the aggressor and how I carried on. Even though I thought I was done with that relationship, I still carried it with me to other relationships. So
I understand.
yeah.
Completely. I was part of a book collaboration called Her Badass Story Too. And in there, I speak about the beginning, some of my abuse and how I ended up being the aggressor, so that my second marriage fell apart because I was the aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn to heal. So it does take a minute. You can't leave one relationship and just jump into another one. And as Sharissa stated, we may have triggers forever. We, not so much in the sense of how we treat our significant other, but if we're walking down the street and we see a man yelling at a woman, it makes us, one, very angry or very anxious, because no matter how healed you are, no matter how much therapy you are, you're always going to remember what you went through. And like I said, I can smile about it now. I remember those days. I don't think back and cry. I don't think back and get angry. But when you see it happening to someone else, it does set off something in you.
You wanna kind of like give them advice right then and there. You know,
Yeah.
It's not really the best thing to do, but you're like, so I remember being at a doctor's appointment with my children, my little ones now, they're 4 and 7. And I remember a woman sitting with her baby and her child's father, and she dropped something, and it looked, the white that went in her face, like it was like a blank stare, because he just stared at her. He didn't say anything to her. He just stared at her, and she felt so disheveled, and she just kept trying to pick stuff up, and he was like, "Stop touching it and leave it alone." And she just sat back, and she just looked at him, and then she looked around the room to see if people were looking. So I put my head down, but I remember wanting to grab her and like hold her. I'm like, no, like you don't have to be scared. And I think that was a lot of the push behind my book, to watch women go through it, just on a day-to-day thing, and to know the signs, and to feel like, I wonder if they know there's a way out. I wonder if they understand that this is not the end all be all, you know? And so that was a big push in writing my book as well.
Mm-hmm. So when did you said you became the aggressor?
Yes.
Did you go to therapy?
Yes. I actually, it's funny because I became the aggressor. I wasn't always the aggressor. So I became the aggressor in the beginning of a relationship. And then it mellowed out. And so you think, oh, I'm okay now. I'm not doing it anymore. You know, everything's okay. And then because those triggers aren't there. And then I remember something happened and I lost it. And he didn't know how to stop me. And he didn't want to touch me. But I was losing it and I was swinging and I was handling. And he said to me, as much as I love you, we can't go any further unless we get help. And it was horrible. It felt so bad because you're so used to feeling like I'm the victim, you know? And so when he said it to me, I realized I just made someone else a victim, you know? And it was like, it hurt. And I knew that I needed whatever he wanted to do to get better. I knew I was on board for, because I never wanted anybody to feel the way I felt. And here I was with this man who loves me. And he's not perfect, because no one is.
Correct.
But I still shouldn't make him feel like a victim. And so that's when I was like, it's time for me to really get some help and some healing. And I did.
And the reason that I asked this question is that even after, while we're in abuse, after abuse, we face a lot of challenges. So what are some of the challenges you believe you faced? Because I can tell you right away what mine was.
Afterwards, I know this is going to sound weird. In the beginning, I missed him. I felt alone because I was already isolated. So I had been isolated for so long that even though these people have come back into my life, I still felt alone. And I felt like the only person who really understands me is this man. And I had to learn that he only understands me because he's made me who he wanted me to be, if that makes any sense. So I would dress the way he wanted, do the things he wanted. So I was who he needed me to be. So of course he understood me, but that wasn't really me. And I had to learn me all over again and be able to understand that these people are really here for me. But I was alone at first. I felt a lot of guilt because, especially after the situation with my daughter, I felt like, how could I be a mother? Like, I went through a stage and people would tell you, I ended up working. I would work, not realizing that that was my way of coping with the fact that I felt like I was an unfit mom. Because how could I have allowed my daughter to be in a situation like that? And so when I was working, my mother had my daughter all the time. And so she was little. So, she ended up calling my mother Ma for a while, and it hurt me. It was like, oh my God. But it was because I didn't feel, when I started to hear her say Ma, I realized that I am a mother. I'm not an unfit mother. I was an educated mom in certain situations. And now that I'm more educated in it, I can be a better mother. So that's how I had to look at that situation.
I completely understand. It's because like you felt like your family was taken away from you.
Yeah.
So he was your family.
It was my family.
And you missed that. Your another reason is that we're afraid we stay because we're afraid we're going to get our kids taken away from us. Or even afterwards, we're afraid that we can't make ends meet. So, we can't be good mothers. So they're going to take my children away from me. So people stay or return because of that reason. The main reason being financial insecurity.
Oh, yeah.
That is the main reason that most people go back to their abuser, is because they're afraid they cannot make ends meet. They can't take care of themselves. They can't provide for their children.
And that part really hurts because your aggressor knows that.
Mm-hmm.
So they play on that for you. And so, and I also thought, because he used to tell me no one's ever going to want me again. You got a baby. Who's going to want a young girl with a baby? Nobody's going to want you. Nobody's going to want to take care of somebody else's baby. And so he went through those things with me. So it was like, oh my God, like, I'm never going to be with anyone again. And because you really do consciously think like, this, I should just stay, because at least I know he loves my child, and I know this will work. You know, I know my child will have a father. And it's funny because my child has an amazing father now. I mean, her father's always her biological father. Never knocked that from him. But the man who's in her life now is amazing. And I might have never, if I would have never let go, she might have not had that. So I have to really understand that, you know, sometimes you got to let things go to get better things. People hold on to stuff and think, this is all I have, this is all I have. But sometimes when one door closes, another one opens, and you got to be prepared to walk through. So
absolutely. There's a saying that this girl that I used to listen to talk all the time, her name is Lily Ennis, that she used to say, you're holding on so tight to the crumbs that you're never going to get, if you don't open and let them go, you're never going to get the loaf of bread. Yeah. And that is so true.
It's true.
And one of the things that I want to say to victims out there is there is hope. And that is all you need to know. There is hope. The way that they slowly stripped you down to the point where you're a shell of who you used to be can be reversed, and you can come back to that beautiful, loved person you were before. So don't think that you're as broken and not able to be healed. Because a lot of people out there think that they are broken. And you hit it on the nose when you said, you know, they put in our minds, they ingrain in our minds, nobody's ever going to want you, to the point where you believe it. And Ajusta tu Corona will tell you, and all these smiling faces right here on this screen will tell you, you do come back, and you come back stronger, and you come back healed and full of joy and able to adjust the next crown.
I just want to say one more thing.
Right ahead.
I didn't realize that I was still broken to this day, because nobody's ever you always gonna continue to grow and heal and become a better version of yourself. I was still severely broken. Even after writing my book, I was still severely broken because I had to relive it to write it. I was still very broken when I went to Justa Tu Corona's gala this year. And when I walked out, I always tell Lillian, excuse me, they made me whole. When I walked out, there was no cracks. And those women I met that day are forever my sisters. We still inbox and write back and forth, and because those women made me whole. I did not realize that I was still cracked and broken in spots, but where I was, they literally slowly filled in that whole day. And so I'm forever grateful.
So let me touch on a little bit about what she's talking about. Our theme was Kintsugi the Masterpiece. So if you don't know what it is, it's the broken glass or jars or cups or teacups or plates. And instead of when we drop something and it shatters, we tend to throw it in the garbage. They pick it up and they put it back together with gold, and they create a masterpiece, a beautiful piece of art of something that was broken. So that was our theme at the event. So her saying that her cracks were filled just brings tears to my eyes, because I'm like, that is the perfect metaphor.
And it's funny because I felt that way before she explained to me what the actual topic of the gala was. So I didn't really understand what it meant, but I felt that way beforehand. And so when I first told her that, it was like an aha moment, because that was the whole basis of the gala itself. And it's like, everything happens for a reason. People are put in your life for a reason. And I knew then when she explained to me what the actual meaning of the gala was, that I was meant to be there. And those women were always meant to be in my life. So.
And we kid you not, everyone there, and I mean everyone, shed a tear. It was the smallest event I had with the number of attendees, but it was the most dynamic event we had ever had. And part of the reason is because it was a new location. I had held it in Connecticut for many years and decided to move it to Florida because I now live in the South. And no one knew me. No one knew about the event. No one knew about Ajusta Tu Corona. But I had a few friends that lived in Orlando, and I thought, well, let me give it a shot. By the time I left, every woman had volunteered her services for the event this year. So from not knowing and just taking a chance, hold your nose and jump, because amazing things will happen. Like they say, when God brings you to it, he will get you through it. So now we have one in Delaware. And if you're in Delaware and you're listening to me and you have friends, you have to get them to this event. Not because I said it. No, because I did say it. but from the people that were at the event, you can ask anyone. Maritza Figueroa is my collaborator on this event, and she has been a life coach for a few years now. She goes to school. She's an amazing life coach. And I was taken aback to see her so emotionally upset at the gala. Like, she really took everything in to heart, and she was just, I would say that when she left, she was probably healed. She says it was powerful. Maritza put in another comment earlier that says, financial is one of the biggest ones. She has seen her mother lose herself. She is not one of the lucky ones. That breaks our heart, Maritza. We're so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so sorry.
And I happen to know, I did a show before where I actually did a small video clip of people I actually knew that did not survive and had been offered help. And this is why I feel that awareness is so important, because people are in relationships they're being abused for years. Yet, and their family gets involved and tries to help them, and they don't leave. And the family keeps trying to help and keeps trying to help, because of course, when you love someone, you don't want them. You don't want to see them in that situation. You don't want them getting hurt. You don't want them getting beaten on. You don't want them manipulated. But unfortunately, until they're ready to go, you really can't do anything about it. So instead of trying to pull them away, we need to find a way to speak to them and make them aware of the situation that they are in, and then help them with an escape plan. Yeah. So on our in a few weeks, we're going to be talking about escape plans or safety plans. Things that you may be able to do where a friend will say to you, what's your safety plan? Like, what's the key word, or where do you want me to meet you? So we'll be talking about, forming a safety plan for yourself.
I love that.
And your children. It's so important because, and some just don't leave because they're completely terrified. So those definitely need the safety plan. Don't wait. We don't want to read about you in the headlines. Come to one of the galas and see how much you are loved, how you are welcomed with a hug, how it is a safe place, how you can speak your mind, how you can state your feelings, and join our community.
Even if you're no longer in a domestic violence relationship and it's been years, I'm telling you, these events will continue to heal you. Because like I tell you, I was broken. I didn't even realize how broken I was until I went to the gala and realized how much healing I needed. And all these wonderful women put their healing hands on me. I'm telling you, it's an event that you don't know you need, but you do. It's one of those things that you get there and you're like, I'm home. It's like you feel safe. Some people think they've gone through the situation, so they're great, but you still don't feel safe. When I tell you Justa tu Corona events are your safe haven, they are your safe haven.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Sharissa.
All the time, Lily.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm just going to make a quick announcement. So it is a pre-Kentucky Derby party, and it's going to be Saturday, March 4th in Milford, Delaware. We're being hosted at a bakery called My Sister's Fault Delectable Bites, and that is located on 10 Bronx Street in Milford, Delaware. It is a full lunch. It is a taste of Latin culture. It is $49 a ticket for a full lunch, which you probably spend that anyway. And you're going to get music with DJ Hector, who is quite well known in the area. You are going to get some amazing speakers. You are going to get a gift bag. And you're going to get a lot of love and healing. And we truly hope to see you there.
Really hope to.
So, would you like to leave our guest with a last comment?
I always use this phrase, and so I want anybody who's ever been in a domestic violence relationship before to make sure that you know. I got this phrase from my sister-in-law, Lily Enez. You're not a victim, you're a victor. And you keep telling yourself you got through something, you'll continue to get through something, and there's always light on the other side.
That's beautiful. She has some great quotes.
Oh, she does.
So remember, you are absolutely amazing. You are loved. Never forget to ajusta tu corona and keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.